Have you been doubting yourself lately? Self-sabotaging yourself? How do we overcome this self-doubt? Well, in today's video, we'll be going over why it's so critically important to start recognizing the patterns, the beliefs that are self-sabotaging you, that are creating the self-doubt, and what we can do to start moving in a positive direction. We'll be utilizing the book Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, covering chapters 4, 5, and 6 in today's video. I've hand-selected one key quote that stood out to me the most in each chapter, so let's start with chapter 4. Here we go. Feelings of inferiority originate not so much from facts or experiences, but our conclusions regarding facts and our evaluations of experiences. Beliefs can hold us back. If, for example, you don't feel you look the part of someone who is successful, and you don't feel that you have the skill sets or the capabilities of delivering a compelling message like other successful people that you see out there who deliver amazing, compelling messages that actually deliver and cause emotional shifts. When we absorb a negative belief like that and attach it to our identity, that negative belief then becomes a roadblock for us in every situation moving forward. Now, if that person started reflecting and noticing that that was a negative belief that was holding them back, and then took action to replace that negative belief with a positive belief, one where he has an incredibly important message to deliver to people that only he and he alone can deliver, no matter what he looks like, no matter what his presence is, then that person can start identifying as someone who has radically changed. And the only change that happened was his belief, shifting from a negative belief to a positive belief, shifting from a belief that did not serve him one bit to a belief that now serves him, and now he can pursue his purpose, pursue his passion, and feel confident, feel good about himself, because now he's representing his true self, he's helping others, he feels like he's contributing to society. It doesn't matter how you got that negative belief or where you got that negative belief. What's important is that you become self-aware of what's happening, what is holding you back, what are the roadblocks, and start stripping away the things that are not serving you and replacing those things with things that are serving you to move you forward. It's definitely no exaggeration whatsoever to say that every person is hypnotized to some extent, either by ideas they've accepted from others, or ideas they've repeated to themselves, or ideas they've convinced themselves are true when they're actually not true. So start reflecting. What things do you tell yourself that you are incapable of doing, incapable of achieving? Because maybe, just maybe, you need to start dehypnotizing yourself and convincing yourself that, okay, actually I can do these things. I can achieve these things. So many other people have accomplished these very things. They're not any different or better than I am. I can do these too. I just got to know what they did to get there and be willing to do those very things myself. Within you right now is to do things you've never dreamed were possible. This power becomes available to you as soon as you can recognize that you need to start changing whatever negative beliefs you have, whatever limiting beliefs you have. Get rid of the I can'ts, get rid of the I'm not worthy, get rid of the I'm not deserving. Those are all self-limiting words and beliefs. Feelings of inferiority originate not from facts or experiences, but our conclusions regarding facts and our evaluation of experiences. So for example, if you consider yourself an inferior weightlifter and you picked up the negative limiting belief that you're inferior, well, it all depends on what and whose norms you're measuring yourself by. Maybe you're comparing to somebody's chapter 20 when you're at chapter 2. The person who is at their chapter 20 once was at your chapter 2 and maybe had the similar feelings that you're feeling right now at chapter 2, but that was years ago. Now, if you start embarking on consistent year after year weightlifting, eventually you'll reach your chapter 20, feeling and looking much like the person who you're comparing yourself to. We tend to judge ourselves and measure ourselves not against our own norms and where we're at currently, but against somebody else's norms who are maybe further ahead of the path than we are. Then you start questioning yourself, is there something wrong with me? Stop measuring yourself against other people's standards. Our currently held beliefs about ourselves, whether good or bad, true or false, were formed without any effort, with no sense of strain. So if we're going to start forming new habits, new beliefs, that are going to start serving us, then we must do it in a relaxed state. It can't be forced. For example, making a forceful effort to intentionally stay away from a bad habit just reinforces that habit. The best way to break a bad habit is to form a clear mental image of the desired end result you want to achieve and to practice without effort toward reaching that goal. The key, though, is always to have an image in your mind of where you're headed, where you're going. Everything else will then fall into place. Let's get into chapter 5. Here's the quote that stood out to me the most. These memories of past failures do no harm as long as our conscious thought and attention are focused on the positive goal to be accomplished. Regardless of what happened in the past, a person must start in the present to acquire some maturity so that the future may be better than the past. The present and the future depend on learning new habits and new ways of looking at old problems. All skill learning is accomplished by trial and error until you develop mastery. And then once you develop mastery, do you typically recall and remember all those trial and errors? No. We can talk about swimming, riding a bike, driving a car, learning how to walk. Once we've developed mastery in anything, we typically only recall and remember the fact that we are good at this thing now. So all the positive accomplishments, all the positive associations with that task, with that skill, is what we typically remember and go back to. And when we're talking about it, we say, oh yeah, I'm a phenomenal swimmer. Yeah, I'm a phenomenal driver, whatever it may be. Why? Because you've detached long ago from all those trial and errors that you went through when you first started learning how to develop the skill to drive, to swim, to bike, to walk. And it's important to recognize that errors, mistakes, failures, and humiliations are all necessary steps to the learning process. Once they've served their purpose, they should then be forgotten. Because if we dwell on them, it's just holding us back. Don't let your past experiences keep getting in the way. Continually criticizing yourself for past mistakes and errors does not help you at all. As we may already be aware of, memories of our past failures can adversely affect our present performance. The minute we change our minds and stop giving power over to the past with all its mistakes then loses its power over us. The minute you change your mind and stop giving power over to the past with all its mistakes begins to lose power over you. Ignore your past failures and act as if it were impossible to fail. Remember that both behavior and feeling spring from belief. To root out the belief that is responsible for your feeling and behavior, ask yourself why. If you're saying to yourself, I can't do this, ask yourself why. Why can't I do this? Why do I believe I can't do this? Is this belief based on actual fact or on a false conclusion? Other questions you could ask yourself are, is there any rational reason for such a belief? Could it be that I'm mistaken in this belief? Would I come to the same conclusion about someone else in a similar situation? And why should I continue to act and feel as if this were true if there is no good reason to believe it? I urge you to ask yourself these questions. And don't just pass through them casually. Think long and hard on them. Get emotional about them. Can you see that you've maybe cheated yourself and sold yourself short? Not because of a fact, but only because of a negative belief that was not serving you. And once you're finally ready to want to transform your self-image, to eliminate that self-sabotage, to eliminate that self-doubt, start to picture what you would like to be and to have, and assume for the moment that such things might be possible. Arouse a deep desire for these. Become enthusiastic about them. Dwell on them and keep repeating them in your mind. Then your present negative beliefs generate enough emotion or deep feeling, and your new thoughts and ideas will cancel out those negative beliefs. And if you're thinking to yourself, well, that won't work, just know that you probably have done this before, and it's called worry. Anytime we worry about something we don't even know is going to happen, and chances are it's actually probably not going to happen, you're replaying a story in your mind over and over and over again, thinking it's true, buying into it's true, backing it up with intense emotion, so much so to where your body and your mind begin to think it's going to actually happen and it's actually going to become true, that worry that you're worrying about. Start using that same power to benefit yourself rather than tear yourself apart. Concentrate on the things you want, not on the things that you don't want. Now let's get into chapter 6. Here's the quote that stood out to me the most. The reason some people are self-conscious and awkward in social situations is simply that they are too consciously concerned, too anxious about doing the right thing. Creativity is spontaneous and natural, as opposed to self-conscious and studied. The most skilled pianist in the world could never play a simple composition if he tried to consciously think out just which finger should strike which key. Instead, he built up mastery and practiced until his actions became automatic and habit-like. He was able to become a skilled performer only when he reached that point, where he could cease conscious effort and turn the matter over to the unconscious habit of playing that piano. So don't be too consciously concerned, too anxious about doing the right thing in any given moment. There's no need for every action to be thought out or every word spoken to be calculated. When you set a goal, it's very important to keep in mind that most of the time you're in journey mode. If you continually obsess over where you are currently and where you want to be, you're less likely to reach your destination. Just program the goal, your end destination, then get busy on the process, the journey. And if you don't know what that process, that journey looks like yet, and typically you won't, then give yourself space to figure out how that journey, that process will look like. The how will come to you when you're relaxed, not when you're tense or trying to force your way through the process, the journey. Emotions of anxiety have their place in planning and deciding on a course of action, a goal. But once a decision is made, then you absolutely must dismiss all care about the outcome. Just start enjoying the ride now. Worrying about it is not going to do you one bit of good and is just wasted energy. Live today as best you can. By living today well, you do the most within your power to make tomorrow better. So I hope this has been helpful. It's been a lot of fun. We'll be covering other future chapters of Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz in other future videos, so make sure to check those out when those come out. I've also released another previous video to this one already, so if you haven't checked that one out, go ahead and check that one out, and I'll see you in the next video.